Two brave whistleblowers are breaking their silence at last, revealing shocking stories of intimidation and control inside Daystar TV. What they've endured behind the scenes will shake everything you thought you knew about this trusted ministry. Secrets hidden for years are finally coming to light, exposing a darker side of Daystar. This is a story of courage, truth, and the fight to be heard. Don't miss this explosive revelation. Watch now. Behind the bright lights and polished broadcasts of Daystar Television Network lies a darker story that few outside insiders truly understand. This story is not about faith and inspiration, but about threats, intimidation, and a deep family divide that has torn apart what many once believed was a unified ministry. Daystar, known as one of the largest Christian networks in the world, has been rocked by shocking allegations from whistleblowers who have bravely stepped forward to reveal the harsh reality behind the scenes. According to these insiders, the culture at Daystar is far from the welcoming, uplifting environment that viewers see on their screens. Instead, it's described as a place where ministers and guests face pressure to conform or risk becoming targets. One chilling example comes from a well-known pastor who was told bluntly by a Daystar executive that in their world, you are either a friend or an enemy. There is no middle ground. If you refuse to help spin stories or back certain narratives, you quickly find yourself labeled an adversary. This culture of fear and control extends deeply into the family that runs the network. At the center of the storm are Joni Lamb, Daystar's president, and her new husband, Doug Weiss. On the opposite side stand Jonathan Lamb and his wife Susie, who have made serious and painful allegations involving abuse cover-ups linked to the family. Instead of coming together to face these difficult truths, the family has fractured, with tension and mistrust growing daily. One whistleblower revealed a pressure campaign led by Joni's daughter, Rachel Lamb Brown, who has reportedly contacted numerous well-known ministers affiliated with Daystar, demanding public support for a family member accused of serious wrongdoing. Ministers who refused to comply found themselves threatened with legal action, with Rachel boasting about having the country's best lawyers ready to destroy anyone who crosses them. Such intimidation tactics paint a grim picture of a ministry using its power and resources not to build faith, but to silence critics and protect its own. Another disturbing story comes from a smaller ministry invited to appear on Daystar's program. What was supposed to be a moment of opportunity turned into a nightmare as they witnessed Joni and Doug openly gossiping and belittling their own family members on camera. When this ministry later spoke out about their experience, they were met with threats and pressure to stay silent, a chilling reminder of how far the network will go to protect its image. This toxic environment, where family disputes are aired publicly and internal critics are crushed, reveals a side of Daystar that many never expected. Instead of a place of hope and spiritual growth, it has become a battleground of power, fear, and manipulation. The divide within the Lamb family is no longer a private struggle. It's a public crisis that threatens the very foundation of one of Christianity's most prominent media ministries. The story behind Daystar Television Network, a beacon of Christian broadcasting for millions, takes a dark and unsettling turn when you look past the cameras and the polished presentations. What many saw as a ministry focused on faith, hope, and spreading the gospel has been exposed by whistleblowers as a place where power, control, and intimidation reign supreme. Central to this revelation is the troubling use of pressure campaigns and legal warfare, a weaponization of Christian ministry that many never imagined. Pressure campaigns within Daystar are reported to be strategic and relentless. Instead of fostering a spirit of collaboration and mutual respect, the leadership has allegedly turned to tactics that coerce and manipulate those within their sphere of influence. Whistleblowers recount stories where ministers, employees, and even family members were pressured to toe a strict line, aligning their public statements and actions with the interests of Daystar's leadership, particularly Joni Lamb and her close circle. One vivid example comes from reports about Rachel Lamb Brown, Joni's daughter, who is said to have orchestrated a widespread campaign targeting ministers affiliated with the network. This wasn't a casual request for support, but a heavy-handed demand backed by veiled threats. Ministers who hesitated or outright refused to support certain family members accused of abuse faced aggressive tactics designed to intimidate them into compliance. Rachel's boast about having the best lawyers in the country was not just a proud claim, it was a warning. Cross the network, and you will face fierce legal retaliation. These legal threats are part of what insiders call lawfare, a deliberate strategy to weaponize the legal system against critics. This involves using costly lawsuits, cease and desist letters, and other legal tools to silence dissent and discourage whistleblowers. The financial and emotional toll of defending oneself against such legal onslaughts can be devastating, especially for smaller ministries and individual ministers who lack the resources to fight back. The impact of this weaponization goes far beyond just controlling the narrative. It creates a chilling effect where fear suppresses truth and loyalty is bought through intimidation. People who might otherwise come forward with concerns or expose wrongdoing find themselves trapped by the prospect of legal battles they cannot afford or the threat of damage to their reputations and careers. In this environment, silence is safer than speaking out, and accountability becomes nearly impossible. Behind these tactics lies a disturbing misuse of Christian ministry's core values. Instead of being a place of healing, truth, and spiritual growth, Daystar is alleged to have become a fortress protecting personal power and family legacy at any cost. The faith-based mission is overshadowed by a culture that prioritizes control and image management, where the threat of legal action replaces open dialogue and reconciliation. The weaponization of ministry also has broader implications for the Christian community and the public's trust. When ministries use their influence and resources to silence critics and manipulate narratives, it erodes confidence not only in that particular organization, but in Christian media as a whole. Donors and viewers begin to question whether their support is helping to spread the gospel or merely funding a legal war chest aimed at suppressing the truth. Whistleblower accounts highlight that this is not an isolated case, but part of a troubling pattern seen in some corners of charismatic media. The tactics used at Daystar mirror a broader trend where ministry leaders, instead of leading with transparency and humility, resort to intimidation and legal muscle to maintain their hold on power. This trend undermines the very foundations of Christian leadership, which should be rooted in servant-heartedness and accountability. It's important to note that the pressure campaigns don't only involve external critics but also family members and employees. Those within the inner circle who question decisions or voice concerns find themselves marginalized, threatened, or pushed out. This internal atmosphere of fear and mistrust damages relationships and fractures the community, making it harder for genuine ministry and healing to occur. Despite these challenges, the courage of whistleblowers and concerned insiders shines a light on these dark practices. Their bravery in coming forward, often at great personal risk, forces the community to confront uncomfortable truths. It ignites conversations about the need for transparency, accountability, and a return to genuine ministry values. The future of Daystar and similar ministries depends largely on how these revelations are addressed. Will there be honest self-examination and reform, or will intimidation and legal warfare continue to stifle change? The stakes are high, not just for the reputation of one network, but for the integrity of Christian media as a whole. For viewers, donors, and members of the faith community, these stories serve as a call to vigilance. Supporting ministries requires not only financial investment, but also a demand for openness and ethical leadership. Ministries must remember that their ultimate responsibility is to serve God and His people, not to protect their own power through fear and legal threats. In the end, the weaponization of Christian ministry at Daystar is a stark warning. It reveals how easily noble intentions can be twisted when power and control take precedence over truth and love. But it also reminds us of the importance of courage, faith, and the relentless pursuit of justice in restoring what has been broken. As these pressure campaigns and legal battles continue to unfold, one thing is clear. The battle for truth in Christian ministry is far from over. The hope is that through continued exposure and faithful voices, a path toward healing and restoration will emerge, one where ministry can truly reflect the heart of Christ, free from intimidation and fear. Behind the glossy screens and polished broadcasts of Daystar Television Network lies a story far darker and more troubling than most viewers could ever imagine. Insider revelations paint a picture of a toxic culture, riddled with gossip, betrayal, and manipulation. What started as a thriving Christian ministry built on faith and family has, according to multiple sources, devolved into an environment marked by fear, distrust, and ruthless power plays. These testimonies come from people who were once inside the walls of Daystar, those who lived the reality behind the scenes, and they reveal a harsh truth about what happens when control and self-interest take precedence over ministry and grace. The toxic culture begins with leadership's approach to managing not only the network, but the people within it. Employees and family members alike describe a workplace where gossip is rampant and often weaponized. What should have been a supportive Christian environment became a place where rumors flew freely and private information was used as a tool to divide and conquer. Staff members report overhearing conversations that sounded more like high school drama than a place of worship and healing. Backstabbing, whisper campaigns, and personal attacks were the norm rather than the exception. It wasn't just casual chatter. It was organized and encouraged by some leaders, fostering mistrust and making people wary of each other. One of the most painful aspects of this toxic culture is the betrayal experienced by those who thought they were part of a unified family and ministry. Several insiders speak of moments where they shared their concerns, only to be met with dismissal, ridicule, or worse, retaliation. When individuals tried to stand up for truth or raise red flags about inappropriate behavior, they found themselves marginalized or silenced. Rather than receiving support or protection, whistleblowers were often branded as troublemakers, their motives questioned, and their reputations tarnished. A consistent theme throughout these revelations is the behavior of key figures within the Lamb family, especially Joni Lamb and her close allies. Sources describe Joni as someone deeply invested in controlling the narrative and the people around her. It's said that she used her position and influence not to foster healing, but to enforce loyalty and obedience. Rather than addressing issues openly, Joni allegedly preferred to handle problems quietly, behind closed doors, where dissent could be squashed and uncomfortable questions avoided. This tendency created an atmosphere where truth was sacrificed on the altar of reputation. Gossip within Daystar wasn't just idle talk. It became a powerful weapon. Staff and family members who fell out of favor found their personal lives and character publicly questioned. The spread of rumors served to isolate individuals and discredit those who opposed or challenged the leadership. In some cases, gossip targeted family members themselves, causing deep divisions that cut at the heart of what was supposed to be a tight-knit ministry family. And this internal warfare left many feeling betrayed, not only by their colleagues, but by the very people they had trusted the most. Insiders also reveal how these divisions impacted the ministry's mission. Instead of focusing on spreading the gospel and supporting the community, much energy was consumed by protecting personal interests and managing conflicts. Ministry programs became platforms for power struggles rather than spiritual growth. Relationships between key leaders fractured, and the sense of unity that once defined Daystar faded away. Employees describe an environment where fear of speaking out stifled creativity and passion, leading to burnout and turnover. Talented individuals left the network, unable to endure the toxic atmosphere. Another troubling aspect of this toxic culture was the alleged use of intimidation and manipulation tactics to keep people in line. Stories surface about leaders threatening job security or access to ministry opportunities as a means to enforce compliance. Those who dared to question decisions or voice concerns risked losing their positions or being socially ostracized. This use of fear as a control mechanism is at odds with the Christian values Daystar publicly espoused, highlighting a deep hypocrisy that left many disillusioned. The culture of betrayal extended even into the family itself. The Lamb family, once presented as a model of Christian unity and strength, now appears fractured and contentious. Insider accounts suggest that family loyalty was often secondary to power dynamics and personal agendas. Family members turned on each other, using internal conflicts as battlegrounds for influence over the ministry's future. This level of dysfunction created a public spectacle that has damaged the family's reputation and called into question the authenticity of their witness. Among the more heartbreaking revelations are accounts of how vulnerable individuals were affected by this toxic culture. Employees and family members dealing with personal struggles found little compassion or support. Instead, their vulnerabilities were exploited or dismissed as weakness. In some cases, allegations of misconduct or abuse were swept under the rug to avoid scandal, leaving victims without justice or healing. The disconnect between Daystar's public message of love and grace and the private reality of neglect and intimidation has caused deep pain. The ripple effects of this toxic culture are wide-reaching. Not only has it harmed those directly involved, but it has also impacted the network's audience and the broader Christian community. Viewers who looked to Daystar for encouragement and spiritual guidance now wrestle with feelings of betrayal and confusion. Donations have reportedly declined as trust has eroded. Other ministries have distanced themselves from Daystar, wary of association with a network embroiled in scandal and internal strife. Despite the grim picture painted by these insider revelations, they also highlight a powerful call to accountability and change. Many who have spoken out do so not from a place of bitterness, but from a deep desire for healing and restoration. They emphasize the need to confront the toxic behaviors head-on and rebuild the ministry on foundations of truth, transparency, and genuine care for people. Their courage in sharing these stories provides hope that Daystar can one day move beyond its troubled past. The testimonies reveal that change will require difficult conversations, humility from leadership, and a willingness to address painful truths. It calls for dismantling the culture of fear and gossip and replacing it with openness and love. Only through such radical transformation can Daystar hope to regain the trust of its community and fulfill its mission as a ministry dedicated to uplifting faith and hope. Ultimately, these insider revelations serve as a stark reminder that no ministry is immune to human failings. The battle between power and grace is ongoing, and ministries must constantly examine themselves to ensure they reflect the heart of Christ. Daystar's story is a cautionary tale of how unchecked ambition and control can corrode even the most sacred spaces. But it is also a story of resilience and the potential for redemption when truth is spoken and justice pursued. As the Christian community continues to grapple with the fallout from Daystar's toxic culture, the hope remains that by shining light into the shadows, healing and renewal will come. It is a journey that requires patience, prayer, and a commitment to the values that should always define the church: love, humility, and truth. Until then, the voices of those who have revealed these dark secrets remind us all that faith without integrity is hollow, and that true ministry is built on the courage to confront hard realities for the sake of God's glory and people's well-being. In the heart of every true ministry lies a calling, not just to preach, but to embody truth, integrity, and courage. Yet when corruption seeps into Christian media, it challenges the very foundation of faith and trust that millions place in these platforms. The call to courage in this context is not just a call to speak out. It's a demand for accountability, transparency, and transformation. It's about those brave enough to expose corruption and those willing to listen, change, and uphold the sacred responsibility entrusted to them. Christian media holds immense power. It shapes beliefs, influences behavior, and offers hope to countless individuals worldwide. When done with purity and devotion, it can be a beacon of light, bringing people closer to God and each other. However, when greed, manipulation, or personal ambition corrupt that mission, the consequences ripple far beyond the walls of a ministry's offices. The damage extends to the faith of viewers, the reputation of the church, and the spiritual well-being of communities who rely on these voices for guidance. Exposing corruption in Christian media is a daunting and often dangerous task. It requires courage not only to face external opposition, but to confront internal fears: fear of retaliation, ostracism, or personal loss. Whistleblowers who step forward risk their careers, relationships, and sometimes even their safety. They often stand alone, fighting against powerful institutions and influential figures determined to maintain the status quo. Their courage shines as a testament to the power of conscience and faith in seeking justice. At the core of corruption in Christian media are stories of broken trust, leaders who exploit their platforms for personal gain, manipulate messages to serve agendas, or silence dissent to protect reputations. These abuses are not always overt. Often, they hide beneath layers of piety and eloquence, making them harder to detect and confront. The complexity and subtlety of such corruption demand vigilance and wisdom from both insiders and observers. The call to accountability begins with recognizing these problems openly. It requires ministries to establish clear ethical standards, robust oversight mechanisms, and transparent financial practices. Accountability means that leaders are answerable not just to donors or boards, but to the communities they serve, and ultimately to God. It demands humility to admit mistakes and a genuine willingness to repair harm done. For viewers and supporters of Christian media, this call translates into an active role. Blind trust can no longer be the norm. Followers must ask hard questions about how their donations are used, what messages are promoted, and who holds power behind the scenes. Engaged audiences can push ministries toward greater integrity by demanding openness and refusing to support platforms that prioritize image over truth. Furthermore, the Christian community must foster environments where whistleblowers are protected and heard. Silence and intimidation have too often been tools to suppress inconvenient truths. By creating safe spaces for honest dialogue, the church can empower those who witness wrongdoing to come forward without fear. This protection is crucial not just for individuals, but for the health of the entire ministry ecosystem. The journey toward accountability is not easy. It often involves painful reckonings, broken relationships, and challenging reforms. But it is essential for restoring faith in Christian media and reclaiming its role as a vessel of light. Ministries willing to embrace transparency, set examples for others, and invite God's blessing on their work. Courage also means confronting the temptation to dismiss allegations or downplay problems for the sake of unity. True unity is not silence, but truth spoken in love. It is built on trust earned through honesty, not preserved through secrecy. Ministries that choose courage over cover-up can heal divisions and rebuild broken bonds within their communities.